Okay, from my doghouse. I had a little bit of a live, not a live stream. This is a live stream, but a podcast. And I'm going to say some of the same stuff here. I know a lot of you won't be here when I start this, but will be later on. And this is about spousal abuse mentally. There's other types. Hello, how you doing? There's other types of abuse other than physical. And mental abuse people put on others is really, really bad because it scars the brain, the heart, and everything you do when you do that. Mental abuse can never, well, it can be corrected as far as the person goes, but it's going to take therapy and the person learning what was wrong they done or did not do. An example of that I read the other night. People put this out. This guy said this about somebody that he was partners with, calling her. Pretty much, he was out there fat shaming her, telling her body wasn't that good or whatever, and stuff like that. Then called her a narcissist. Well, guess what? You're the narcissist for even thinking that. If you have that attitude towards women to start with, maybe you shouldn't be with a woman or anybody else. You cannot, in all consciousness, use spousal abuse as a excuse you want to use for things going wrong. If you cannot be on here or with your spouse and take responsibility for what you're doing, you're not much of a man. When you do something wrong, own up to it. Otherwise, all you're doing is sitting there putting the same thoughts in this person's head that they're wrong, they're not any good, and without you, they'd be nothing. And they do this all the time. It may not be them words, but that's what'll go through a person's head. I've seen it. I've seen people do this. I've even seen it the other way around where the female does it. I had to work with a female. She did this constantly with her husband, and he fell for it too. So it's not a one-way street. It happens both ways. But in this one case, if you're the female though, and you're going through all this stuff and you're being told how bad you are, how bad things are, and all this crap, the bad thing are is not you. It's the person's perceiving it to be you because that other person has some kind of mental problem that needs taken care of. You do not need to be with anybody that's going to put you down, abuse you mentally, even physically, but mentally it tears into you. If you have a family and raising that family, that person that's doing that to you will, well, what I'm kind of trying to say here is that will reflect on the kids, not intentionally, but it will. They will see what is going on and they will follow as a general rule to the bad. I'm not saying should, I'm just saying that's what they'll see. Sometimes the bad will forego the good. When you're young, that's going to stand out in your mind like crazy. So as a man, if you do that to your wife, your spouse, or your girlfriend to make yourself look better, and you're a jerk, plain and simple jerk. No woman on this earth, whether you like them or not, needs to be treated that way. None. If you got to treat people like that, remember the problem is not them, it's you. You cannot hide your inadequacies by putting the other down, mentally abusing them, mentally just torturing you all the time. I know people, and I've seen it. They'll go out, they'll criticize their wife or their girlfriend at a constant pace, that everything they do is wrong. They'll go out, "Well, you can't order that because of this. You remember what I told you about this, so you can't do that." And yes, that happens. That's the reality of life. Does not make it right, not make that guy this great guy of the world that makes him a jerk. When you start putting your spouse mentally messing with them, you are doing something to more than her. You're doing that to everybody around her because a lot of people do this to make themselves look better, and they will try to convince that person mentally they cannot function without him. When you get to the point as a person that you believe that, then he can control you for the rest of your life or control you for as long as you are married or living together, whatever your situation is. Because control to some of these people mean everything to them. You as a spouse is secondary or third. You're not number one. You never will be. Because a person that's willing to go out there and abuse you mentally is willing to take everything down around you, family, friends, siblings, they don't care because you have to do what they want you to do. If you do not do what they want you to do, you are in the wrong. Automatically, it don't matter. You know how many people, I think there's a lot of people that are mentally abused out there that has never had, some have, but a good part of them physically never touched. So we don't recognize it. That's the problem. When you mentally abuse your spouse, you're more apt to get away with it than if you physically beat her. By the way, if you physically beat your wife, girlfriend, you're a piece of shit, plain and simple. If you mentally messing with them, you're still a piece of shit. This should never ever happen. You know, my dad never once touched my mom physically, as far as hitting and stuff like that. And mentally, you didn't see it. There might be a comment, and we all do that here and there, that might not have been that appropriate. But hello, John. Because when you get so infatuated with mental abuse of a spouse, that's what you will do. It'll be about money. It could be about many things. But if you're going to abuse somebody, it's going to be about all. They don't care. I'm just reading this. Okay, I was just reading Bearded Fisherman. But just think about it. This is as individuals, how many times have you seen somebody mentally abuse somebody, a spouse, a girlfriend, or whatever, and just kind of walked away from it? You might have noticed it, but that was it. But if they physically touch them, you will notice it. And I think sometimes ourselves, we are built that way. Okay, we didn't see any physical stuff, so everything must be okay. We don't take a minute to think the mental aspect can be bad, real bad. That how do you kind of distinguish the two? Both are wrong. One is more noticeable. I hope John and them get the fence a going. When you decide in your life if you're going mentally abuse somebody, there is something very, very wrong with you. I don't care if I like you or dislike you. If you're abusing a female and trying to just belittle her at all times, I will have no respect for you and I will walk away. Even family. I was not raised that way. You did not do that. And when you're raised that way, you see it more. Yeah, mental abuse is a bad thing. But what makes it worse is when people add on to it, the mental abuse, and they know you're in a situation like that, and they'll just keep pushing and pushing and pushing because they want, well, partly they think they're better than you, and they're going to show you that they're better than you. But in reality, they're the ones with the problem. The person with the mental problem with through marriage and that, it's not them. That usually the person pushing the most on it to make you look bad, look look so bad and feel so bad about things around you, and they're pushing that to make themselves look better. How in the hell can that person exist? It is a bad situation altogether. People that uh, I have a brother, his first wife mentally abused him so bad, made him feel like he was a piece of crap. Just everything that happened, it was always his fault according to her. And when it was all said and done, it was totally opposite of that. So that, like I said earlier, it does do it with both. But we're not here to try to abuse your spouse. We're not here mentally to drain them. We're just not. Yes, there's times I think we all, to a point, do that, but we catch on and stop it. But these guys out there and these bullies don't want to stop it. I tell you what, John, you should never be broken. You should stand up and fight for everything you got because those that are trying to break you or break other people are usually a piece of shit. Everybody needs and that's good bitter fish, bitter bearded bearded fisherman. I 100% agree with that. When you get to the point you're letting people walk over you, make you look bad, make you look like you're in the wrong, you should always stand up for that. But them that hasn't got to that point and gets broken down, they think they are in the wrong, and they're not. And we know one person that's doing this, and he is 100% in the wrong. He should never, ever have gone after anybody. To me, and this is my personal opinion about this one certain person, he hates himself, whether it was because of something happened in his past or if he has never learned how to love. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't know which is which, but everybody should stand up and say, no, get the hell out of here. Leave us alone. Thank you, Smooth Rivers. But when you stand up to a bully and a narcissist, and a lot of times they're the same person, you're better off. You cannot let people run you over and make fun of you. Well, they're going to make fun of you if they're going to make fun of you, but you don't have to fall for their antics at all. When you stand up for the truth and you stand up for your rights and you protect your family, you're the good person. If you get your minions to follow you and do bad, they are bad. I don't care if they think they're following this guy, these minions, and he's 100% right. They're wrong. That makes them wrong, makes them what they're doing wrong. They should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing. Shame on every one of them. You know this one guy, we already know who it is, but he goes out there if he wants content more than anything, but if he is willing to take you down and take others down mentally, he's going to do it. He's not really into the physical end for the most part, it looks like. Could be in the past, but mentally, he goes after people. And that's like a lot of spousal abuse people are. They'll go after who they perceive as the weakest, who they perceive as bad, who they can walk over and spit on them virtually and stomp their head into the ground. Sometimes they find out that don't work. And I mean, spousal abuse is the same exact way. If you and all of us argue with our wives. I only have one wife, by the way, not wives, but we do have a tendency to get off track as a human being and start to go down that road of abuse, but it's corrected almost immediately. We sometimes move our mouths faster than what we should, but most people will correct it. A few that are abusers mentally will not correct it. If they get corrected, they double down on what they're saying. They will move faster and harder to prove they are right. Hi, Trinity. And the more you say no, no, the more it looks like they're in the wrong. Mentally, they'll even go farther and farther. And I've seen this all the time around me. I grew up around it. And it's not been my family because I go out and talk to people and I see people. I've worked with people that's gone through this. And I know for a fact I would never do that to my wife. I would not mentally mess with her at all. Mental abuse is, to me, a hidden deal that is done because we don't see it physically. We're willing to walk away from it even though it's there. My wife, and whether people want to believe this or not, really is hits home to me. She has the start of Alzheimer's, and I have to watch what I say because sometimes stuff not normal comes out of her mouth, and I really have to watch it because I'm not going to abuse her. And if I start getting upset, to me, I'm abusing her. I'll have to go around things. Like the other day, I go into the kitchen, I get me some chili that was left, and I bought a couple of soups. And other than that, I give her one, and she microwaved it and everything, got it hot. I walked back in the house from my dog house here, and she goes, "I'm just like you. I could only eat part of the soup." I didn't open the soup, so I just dropped it. I didn't say a word and went on my business because I will not mentally abuse her, even though of her disease. You know, this person we all know on here, I wonder if his spouse would have Alzheimer's if he'd pack up and leave or get her the hell out. It, it it's a question I've asked for a couple of months now. I'm not trying to be sorry for myself, but I've always wondered if this person had the same thing happen to him, would he stick around or would he leave? Because I'm willing to bet just because of his actions, the abuse he would put somebody through that was going through that. It would be unbelievable. Yeah, my sister to a point, my little sister kinda went down that road with my brother-in-law. It's sad that you think you have to do that. Yes, in my case, you have to watch it just 'cause of, what was and what is now. But I don't abuse her. I make sure if she says something that's off the wall, and it does happen, I just kinda go with it, try not to get upset. Even if I get upset, I'll walk away, then I'm not gonna say anything to her about it. And not having abuse in your home, that's what you do. Mentally, you know, it's hard on me, but that's not the point I'm trying to get here, though, really. It's spousal abuse has to be stopped somehow. I mean, it's existed before I was even born, it's going to exist after I'm gone. But we have to get into a situation where we recognize the spousal abuse that's non-physical and let it be known that it's out there. Obviously, this guy we know is very much into the mental aspect. When you can destroy a person because of that and because of your attitudes. It it's a shame we have to go down that road with people. I could turn my back right now and it's still going to happen there. But guess what? Even though I'm not there, I'm going to speak out. That's like I've spoken out on here in favor of John and Lynette and Harley. They do not deserve what is happening to them. They need the help of the people around them. John has done a great job in the fact that I take it, and I could be wrong, that he can be hot-tempered at times, but he has learned not to have that temper around certain people because of the abuse that's going on. In his case, it's not spousal abuse, it's a neighbor abuse, which mentally is still the same thing. Meant in the respect that you might not be living with the person, but they're going to do everything mentally to screw with you. And that's a shame that people have to do that. I don't get it. I guess when I was raised this stuff was not to happen. You never ever put yourself in a position where you mentally was going to mess with somebody. If my mom or dad figured that was going down that road, you're the one that will be physically spanked, and you would be told why that was wrong. And that's the way I was raised. Maybe that's part of the problem. Some of the people are not raised in properly that way. They'll go out, get married, and they think they're God Almighty Himself and will be physically and mentally abuse people. The mental aspect is scarred for life, people. You don't see it because there's no scars on your body, but your brain will never ever forget it. Your brain will know the abuse you take. And some people are really good at convincing you you are in the wrong. Well, you're not in the wrong. If you're in a situation like that, step back, evaluate yourself, evaluate the people around you. Hi, Demon Cat, and take it a step forward because you do not need to be mentally abused. It happens. It happens to a point to all of us, I guess, but you don't have to accept it. Don't fall into the fact that this is the way it is. There's no reason you need to be mentally abused by anybody. We get to the point in our lives, well, even younger, we don't need that abuse. You should not take that abuse. And believe me, there's a lot, if you're in a marriage that's that way, there's a lot of people that won't go down that road at all. Mentally, people use that against you. One person we all know here knows that certain people you can mentally go after them. Spouse, according to these text messages, which is bad, but he goes after everybody else that he think he's mentally can go after. And he goes after him mentally. And we got to get to the point in our lives we see this. At some point, like I said, just sit back. If you're even think you're in that situation and go, did I really do something wrong? Or is this something somebody else is doing wrong? Or whatever. Take a minute of your time and see if this is you, because all of us know somebody that's done it. Or the most of us will mentally abuse their spouse. We can't have this keep happening. It starts with the individual. You can't change their mind, but you can sure point it out. I got to go do a couple of things. So I appreciate y'all. I just wanted to get this out here about mental abuse. And I hope people do listen. And I do thank all of you. Thanks, everyone.